Hello, movie buffs. Today we are going to be taking a closer look at Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, and we're going to be answering a question. But before we get to the question, a quick spoiler warning. For those of you who have not seen this film, please click off this video immediately, for I will be talking about some of the main events slash spoilers within the movie, and if you haven't seen it, it's going to get ruined. So click off this video. When you've seen the movie, come back, then you can watch this video. Now, to the question. Were the critics too harsh on Quantumania, or did they hit the nail on the head? So without further ado, let's kick off this video. And yeah, so oh my goodness, this movie was an interesting movie. Okay, there were moments in it that were just brilliant, and then there were moments in it that were boring, that just there wasn't much from it emotionally, but there were some good moments. So let's talk about the good moments. So the good moments. One of the things that I really liked in the movie is the fact that they finally explored Janet's character, because let's be real here, ever since she was rescued in Ant-Man 2, I'm pretty sure most of us wanted to know what it was that she got up to as she was down there and what the quantum realm was actually like, and through her character we get to see that, and why she was so against going into the quantum realm or even touching it or being anywhere near it. So they did a good job there, and I really liked how they went into her character, because through her character and the past, they were able to go into the past and show us what it was that she did and why she was trying to avoid the quantum realm. It turns out that she's running away from her past, basically, because she ends up helping Kang, who is exiled from the multiverse into the quantum realm. And basically, Kang ends up lying to her, manipulating her into believing that he's just a scientist that, was knocked off course and he ended up here, right? And that he needs help to go back to his world or something to that effect. And, well, that's Kang for you. And then you get the moment where you get to see Kang on his ship, and Janet puts the multiverse engine code into the ship, and she touches it, connecting to his mind, and she sees all the flashbacks of what Kang does. And those flashbacks, watching them, I was like, yo, when I saw that, I'm like, okay, you know what? Somebody's gonna die. He's gonna whoop like Ant-Man's ass. Like, Ant-Man's got no chance. None of these guys have any chance whatsoever. And I was very excited for it. So they did that very well, and I really liked how they did that and how they explored her character. Then let's move on to the next thing, which was M.O.D.O.K. I really liked M.O.D.O.K's character. I know a lot of people didn't, because of the way he looked goofy. I liked him because of the fact that firstly is Darren Cross from the first movie. Second of all, yeah, he looks all funny and weird, but I don't think he was supposed to look serious. I don't think he was supposed to be a big bad, because either way you need to understand, if they did make him the way that everybody is saying of being looking like more kind of with a serious demeanor, and if his character was more of a serious character, a character that needed to be taken seriously, a character that had this kind of darker persona, it wouldn't work, because there'd be an opposition almost, because then you'd have M.O.D.O.K, who would be equally as big as Kang, and the question is, well, which one is the focus? So obviously, in order to focus on Kang, they had to create a minion who was going to be running around doing his dirty work for him, right? So they had M.O.D.O.K, who was this kind of gimmicky character, and I liked it. I think it was good. I mean, come on, they did him dirty. They did M.O.D.O.K dirty with his death. It looked funny, but you know what? I liked it. I think his character being a gimmick, it really just did make sense. I know a lot of people didn't, but I think it was a good idea. And some of the things that he does more than Kang does. So, again, maybe that's why people don't like his character. I'm not quite sure. I don't think it's only just because of the way he looks. I think it's because he has more to do in the film. And maybe people want to see more from Kang, which, hey, I'm with you on that. And yeah, and I like how, he has this revenge arc against Scott, right? And then, he's linked to all the characters apart from Janet, right? He's linked to everything a character apart from Janet. And, he has that genuine hatred. He has a reason to hate and to want to fight and want to hurt Scott and his family, right? He has a genuine reason. So I like that bit as well. I like his character and M.O.D.O.K's introduction to this film. If you're gonna talk about M.O.D.O.K, you're gonna have to talk about Kang. Now Kang, oh my god, this guy, he's gonna be a better villain than Thanos, no doubt about it. I liked his character because he had a much darker persona. Whenever he was on screen, you felt intimidated, you felt, inferior, you were on the edge of your seat, and you felt hopeless because you had no idea what he was gonna do. And how he would speak so subtly as well, in such a subtle manner, right? He didn't have to kind of do, he didn't have like a deep, scary voice or any of that. He just, speaking a very subtle way, but because he had that very dark persona and that dark energy, about him, it just felt so intimidating, and you could feel that bleed through the screen and into you. You know what I mean? Like through the screen, you could feel the intimidation of like Scott and Cassie through the screen, right? And I really loved Kang. He towards the end of the film, he's a badass. We get to see, even though it's a little glimpse, we still get to see a glimpse of his power and what he can do. And also we get those flashbacks when Janet is explaining, some of what she did to help Kang. And also when Janet touches the ship, we get to see the flashbacks of the damage and the things that he's done, right? So Kang, I really liked, as a villain. I think he was a fantastic villain. Jonathan Majors, props to him. He absolutely smashed, his representation or his version of Kang. And I don't imagine it would have been easy because, he's got multiple variants to play. So props to him. Honestly, he did a fantastic job, Jonathan Majors. Yeah. And now I want to talk about Scott and Cassie and their dynamic, because that was something that I also wanted them to focus on. Because let's be real here, over the past few movies, that dynamic has been in and out of focus, and obviously it's been important for both characters, especially Scott, because obviously Scott's the dad, right? And in this movie, Scott's basically just trying to be a dad now. It's post Endgame. They've saved the universe, and they're just kind of laying back now. He just wants to relax, just be a dad, and focus on being there for Cassie and rebuilding that dynamic with her, because it's been damaged. As he was a very inconsistent father, coming in and out of her life. He's in, he's out. And it's not really his fault, because obviously, he in the first one, yes, it was, but ever since he became Ant-Man, he's had to balance, his personal life with his superhero life, and sometimes the superhero life would kind of interject his personal life, so he would have to, he would have to sacrifice a part of his personal life to, be a hero, and living that double life wasn't easy for him, but he had to do it. So in this movie, he's basically just trying to be the dad he couldn't be for Cassie in the past, in the past. And then not only that, after Ant-Man 2, what happens? He goes into the quantum realm, and he gets stuck in there for 5 years. So he doesn't really get the opportunity to be the father he wanted to be to Cassie. And so now here is his chance to do that. And well, he what he didn't realize was, well, it wasn't just gonna be as simple as that, right? No Ant-Man movie is ever simple as that. There's always something that goes wrong with every superhero movie, and this movie was no different. And so throughout the film, all you get is Scott just trying to protect his daughter, and that's what you see. You just see a desperate father wanting to protect his daughter, and also to rebuild a strained and tense relationship with his daughter, to kind of strengthen it and make it healthy again. So they're very close. He wants to get close to her, because Cassie relates more to Hank and to Janet than she does to Scott, right? And you know this because look what she builds in the basement, right? She builds that quantum signaling computer device, right? Using Hank's journals, which I think is quite weird, but hey, what can you see? That's kind of, I guess you could say, the plot hole, but it was kind of weird, that really. I don't even know why they decided to go with that. So that was another thing that I liked as well. And I also liked how Cassie was very, opposite to Scott. She wanted to help people. She didn't care. I mean, when they were introduced to Gentora, and when Gentora introduces them to the Conqueror, basically, and the setup of the Conqueror begins, right? And she basically just explains how, he went on a crazy campaign. He destroyed their home, they killed a whole bunch of their people, and then he built his citadel on top of it, on top of their like bones and things like that. And how the fact that Cassie was so passionate to want to help and be there whilst her dad Scott wasn't so much. I mean, he was more concerned about her than the fight and what was going on in here in the quantum realm. And so you do get that, and there are moments. Cassie does get one or two moments of her own, and I really like it. I think one of the scenes, one of the highlights of this film for me was when Cassie makes that speech, disrupts Kang's speech, which was hilarious. I found it funny because there he is, trying to make this, kind of a speech, and trying to, I guess you could say, kind of make his print or make his impact, on history. And then he's midway through his speech, and she just disrupts it, and then sparks a rebellion, and then that leads to the final battle, which was brilliant. Speaking of the final battle, I loved it. It had a very Star Wars vibe to it, because on one side you have Kang's troopers who might as well have been stormtroopers, and then the other side you have just normal heroes and rebels who might as well be insurgents. So it's kind of like the Star Wars, it's like Star Wars, very similar to that. And when people were first mentioning Star Wars, I'm like, how are they comparing Star Wars to this movie? It makes no sense. And then when I watched it myself, I'm like, hang on a minute, it makes sense. Yeah, it does have a very Star Wars vibe to it, especially the scene when Ant-Man is going crazy and Kang sends out those ships, and they kind of they're shooting him, and he's going down. He drops to one knee. You think, oh my god, shrink down, do something, like he needs help. So he needs help. And then from up above, the rebels come down in their ships. They start shooting down the Kang's troopers' ships, and then they overrun the citadel. And that was honestly such a fantastic final battle. I loved it. Another moment as well. I really loved the moment. I think one of the best moments in the film was when Kang comes down after basically his defenses have been breached. The citadel's being overrun, and he's basically the final line of defense. He goes down, and as soon as he lands on the ground, straight away he just starts vaporizing the quantum people. He doesn't care who's in his way. It could have been his troopers. He doesn't even bother looking. He just starts vaporizing like a madman. And then he literally, within like a matter of a minute or two, the rebels turn around and they just make a beeline back home, because he's able to put down that rebellion in a matter of seconds, right? His mere presence, right, and his dominance is so kind of terrifying and so intimidating that the rebels turn around and they go, nah man, we're out of here. They run. They make a beeline for home. And as they're retreating, he still starts attacking them. That's even crazy a bit. And then you have the scene where Scott and Hope and Cassie turn up, and then you have that standoff, and you think, okay, let's do this, or this is going to be crazy. And it was. I love that moment, and you just see, Cassie gets involved, and she grows big and grabs him and tries squeezing him or something. And then he kind of, I don't know, he does this thing where he sends this, I don't know if he creates this kind of blast wave or something, some kind of shield or some kind of wave or something that kind of knocks them back and shrinks them down. This happens a few times. And when Cassie gets knocked down, Hope sees this, she shrinks down, she tries to go for him, and he just swats her out of the way like she's a fly. She then, goes flying, and before she hits the ground, she grows back to original size. Then Scott gets pissed off, he grows massive, he grabs Kang and he slams him in the wall 2 times, and then Kang does that blasting again, sending him flying. And it's like, whoa, like, bro, this is insane, man. Like, they're trying everything here. They're going big, small, they're doing everything. They're trying to team up on him. It doesn't matter what they do, they just can't do anything. So next thing you know, this is the bit that for me, where things start to go bad. Okay, but before we get into the bad, one more scene that I love was the final fight there between Kang and Scott. Scott was, at first he was doing okay, when he was outside the portal, when you thought the movie was over and Kang and Scott have that final showdown. Oh mate, that was a sick battle, man. That was a sick fight. 1-on-1, that wasn't Kang the Conqueror versus Ant-Man, that was Scott Lang versus Kang, then just a normal man, right? Because his suit was damaged. That fight was insane, man. Kang whooped Scott's ass. He whooped his ass. And he doesn't even have his powers, bro. He doesn't even have his powers. He beat his ass. And, yeah, I mean, the ending, I don't agree with the ending. I wasn't happy about the fact that Scott survived. But we'll discuss that in a moment. And then Scott basically gets those discs. He puts it back into the multiversal engine core, causing it to, I don't know if it imploded or enlarged again. I'm not quite sure what happens to it. But, he kind of he's holding Kang down against it so that they were both going to get pulled in. And then, Kang is able to break free. He makes a beeline for the portal again. Hope comes out, shoots him a few times, and Scott then gives him an uppercut with his right arm that was broken a few minutes before by Kang. Don't know how that happened, but hey, he gives him an uppercut, and then Kang falls over to the engine core, and it basically pulls him in, and then they go home, and then we get the final scene. So now that's all the good. That's what I liked about the film. Now let's talk about what I didn't like, and here we go. Time for the bad. Number one, the biggest thing that frustrated me, or one of the biggest things that frustrated me about this film, was the fact that Janet could have avoided, or this entire movie didn't even have to happen. Had Janet just sat down and explained, hey, listen, there's a guy called Kang, and this is what's going down there. You don't want to go near the quantum realm because there's a mad conqueror down there, and he's gonna do X, Y, and Z, and this is what he did. And instead of explaining it to her family, what does she decide to do? Right? When they go down to the basement and she realizes they're messing around with the quantum realm, she only tells them after they've already sent the signal and they've already, messed around with the quantum realm a bit. After they send the signal, she pulls out the code, she freaks out, pulls out the code, right? You think the machine's gone off, and then she tries explaining. And then what happens? They get pulled into the quantum realm. And then so you would think, okay, maybe she's gonna explain to them now. When they arrive there, I mean, she knows, okay, it's too late now. Quickly, let's explain what happened, and then we need to get out of here, right? Then we maybe, then the setup for Kang may begin. Nope. What did you do? So we need to find Scott and Cassie. We need to get out of here, and we need to go do this. And she still still withholds it, which makes no sense, because a second ago she was about to, confess, but she doesn't. It's annoying, and that's something that frustrates me, because there are many moments where she could have just said, okay, confessed. Like the moment when they met Kryler, right, who's supposed to be her friend. You come to learn that actually he's now working for Kang, and he was gonna take them there. There's a little fight scene that takes. Kryler gets eaten by that squid thing, and they steal his ship, and you'd think, okay, maybe now she's gonna explain what happened. But nope, doesn't even bother doing that. And it's like there was many moments where she could have just explained, and so it would have made it so much more easier, and it would have picked the movie's pacing would have picked up. But because she was continuously delaying, and honestly, I'm just gonna say that this was down to lazy writing. It was either that, or they just didn't have any idea as to, okay, well, if we expose what she's done, right, then how are we gonna carry that? How are we gonna make that into a movie? How are we gonna carry that into Act 2 and Act 3? How are we gonna connect that, right? And how are we gonna make it into an actual movie? So maybe that's what it was. But I think it's lazy writing. I'm sorry, but I just do. For the most part, it was alright. But then just the pacing would slow down a little bit, and it just was not good. That's number one. Number two, and this is something that I just would have like, but why? The second thing that annoys me, or I didn't like about the film, was the fact that whenever there was an emotional build-up and tension was building, and you were like, okay, what's gonna happen, and you're on the edge of your seat and you're thinking, oh, someone's about to go down, someone has to make a remark and try to be funny. Now, I'll be honest with you, there were moments in the film where the comedy was on point and I loved it, right, and it was funny. But then there were those moments, as I'm talking about now, those moments where there was emotional build-up, there was tension building, you were beginning to kind of sit on the edge of your seat, kind of like, what's gonna happen, and then someone has to make a joke, someone has to say some ridiculous thing, and it just kills the vibe of that moment, and suddenly it becomes a comedy scene. Which the reason why that's a problem is because whenever Kang's on screen, there's this dark aura, there's this dark presence, the tone darkens, right, and it becomes a lot more heavy hitting. But whenever one of the others, the protagonists, are on screen, for some weird reason they think, okay, let's have some comedy, here and there, and make it funny. Well, how are you gonna have a character that has a darker demeanor and a darker tone, and then on the other side have this completely light-hearted comedic tone? This was one of the things that I was worried about, because I'm like, maybe they may overdo it with the comedy, or they may mess up with the tone, and that's exactly what happened here. Good thing with the Kang and the tone, whenever Kang was on screen, the tone was perfect, but whenever it would switch over, it really does kill some moments that could have turned out to be very intense, very emotional, but they didn't want to go there. So what can you say? Okay, that's number two. Another thing that I didn't like, we know that eventually in the movie, Kang sends M.O.D.O.K to kill Cassie, and then you have this entire kind of chase scene where she's trying to get away, he's trying to chase her, and then she tries helping her dad. He shoots the kind of platform so she can't get to him, and eventually she has to confront him, right? And so she grows big, punches him, he goes flying, lands upside down, he flips right way up, and then he fires these like cables. Cassie grabs one of those cables, bang, throws him one way, throws him the other, kind of like what happens to Loki in Avengers, and then he just has enough, right? And then Cassie has to make a remark, because he became emotional there, and I think that was a moment where it could have been an emotional moment, because it's like, okay, now you're getting to see Darren, not M.O.D.O.K, yeah, you get to see Darren, the human part of Darren is beginning to appear now, and now he's beginning to express himself really for real. Yeah, and instead of that, you get Cassie just making a weird remark, and it's like, why, man? This moment could have been a good one. You've just killed it again. And then that was a moment I didn't like, and I think that honestly that kind of killed a vibe as well. I mean, there was emotions building, and then he just like that, you kill those emotions, right? It kind of, you take a step back. It kind of, sometimes it felt out of place, and I don't know, man, it just didn't feel right, that moment there anyways. And then, we have, another thing, Kang, I loved him. I loved his character. I love Jonathan Majors. He's a great actor, and Kang is a fantastic character. The one thing I didn't like about him, or what they did with him, is the fact that he was sat back and had M.O.D.O.K do everything. And I was like, hang on a minute, Kang's supposed to be a big bad. Now I'm not saying he should be as big as Thanos was in Avengers, no. What I'm saying is he should have been the one that went out hunting for, Scott and Cassie. He was the one that should have been going out and traveling across the quantum realm trying to locate Janet or something like that, because I get it that he has M.O.D.O.K who could do all the dirty work for him, but who has the grudge, right? Kang has the grudge with Janet, so you would think, okay, maybe he'll go after Janet and think, okay, if I can't get to her, maybe I'll find Scott, or I'll find Cassie, right? And then she'll come to me, but he doesn't. He ends up sending M.O.D.O.K who has to come and do it, and it's quite weird because Kang's moments on screen are fantastic. They're brilliant. It's just that, well, apart from towards the ending of what happens to him, but with the ants, and I'll get to that in a moment. But for me, he just didn't do much in the film. We never really got to see much in terms of his power. We get moments like the flashback when Janet's explaining what happened when she touches the ship, when she's explaining her past and what she did for him and how she helped him get his suit back, right? That, apart from that flashback and the tiny bit we get to see of him coming down and going crazy on those, the quantum people that are obviously trying to, take overrun his tower, right? Apart from that, those two moments, we really don't get to see much from him in terms of dominance, and we don't get to see much from him in terms of his powers. He's a major villain. That's what I'm just trying to say. I'm just trying to understand where they were coming from. So that was something that disappointed me, and to me, Kang was just unsatisfactory for me anyways. So that's another problem. And then let's go back to M.O.D.O.K for a minute. M.O.D.O.K, remember what M.O.D.O.K stands for? It stands for mechanized organism designed only for killing. And who does he kill in this film? Nobody. Why? Because nobody dies. Those are the two things that really annoy me. Number one, he's supposed to be killing somebody. He's supposed to be a hunter. Well, why didn't you have him kill someone? Maybe he could have killed Hank. Maybe he could have killed Hank. Right? Think about it. Who did Darren hate? Darren hated Hank the most because Hank, kept this technology, the pin particle and the Ant-Man suit hidden from him, right? And it was because of his pursuit of this suit that ended up leading him to where he is now. So him killing Hank made sense, and he should have done it. But no, they just wanted to make this gimmick character, and unfortunately, it really, he was a good character. I liked him, the fact that he was gimmicky, but he should have killed somebody because he didn't live up to his name. Kind of like what, they did with Go the God Butcher in Thor Love and Thunder. He was supposed to be a God Butcher. Well, how many times did we see him do that? Once. And then the next time you hear about him is when Thor and Thor and Korg and Valkyrie and Jane, they all go to that place where the Zeus is, and they ask Zeus for help and all the others for help. That's when they mention that he's been going crazy, killing kind of lower tier ones, less important ones, right? But it's like, bro, he's supposed to be a butcher, but they never showed it, so he never lived up to his name, and that was disappointing. Same thing here, right? It was similar to this. It was same thing here with M.O.D.O.K. They did the same thing, and it's mind-blowing that this keeps happening. I don't know. Maybe they're just rushing it. I don't know if it's because of the time that they have to develop the script and whatnot, or develop the characters. I'm not sure if it's that or what it is, but this is a problem now, and it's beginning to happen a lot more. It's beginning to happen a lot more than we think. But anyway, so that was a problem. Now, here is another thing that annoyed me a lot. M.O.D.O.K's death. Oh my god, what was that, man? Right? I get it. Cassie had a bit of a talk with him, and he's kind of, it's like a redemption arc. He's trying to redeem himself, right? And what did he do? He basically takes down the shield that Kang's holding up. Takes it down, allowing the ants to do their work and damage his suit. And not too long after that, he dies, right? And then he talks about, oh, you were like a brother to me, and you have that moment where it's a bit funny, and it's like, I just don't understand, because this movie was supposed to be a darker toned film. That's the thing, a darker toned Ant-Man film. It wasn't supposed to be a light-hearted, footy film. Yes, okay, they could have had comedy in certain moments, but not in every other scene, right? Not in the moments where there was emotional build-up, where there was kind of tension build-up, because you don't do that, because then you kill the tension, you kill the emotion. Next thing you know, it's just a dry scene. That's what it just feels like. It just feels dry. That's what it does. And then that's not good, is it? That's not good at all. But that's what they did, And he says one or two lines, or now at least I get to die an Avenger or something like that, and they start laughing again, which it was funny. But again, I don't know. I don't know, man. It just didn't feel right with me. It didn't sit right with me, and they did do M.O.D.O.K dirty. I'm not gonna lie, they did. And talking about that moment, let's talk about what happens to Kang with the ants. Because this is something a lot of people have talked about, and I agree with what most people are saying about how this scene has to be the dumbest one, right, in any movie I've ever watched. And here's why. A minute ago, right, what was Kang doing? he comes down, he takes out a whole bunch of quantum people, right? And then, Cassie, Scott, and Hope are trying to take him out. He manages to fight them off, right? And then what happens? Hank turns up with back of these massive flipping ants, and the ants have to deal with him. Bruh, are you serious? Kang went from dominating to being dominated in a matter of seconds by ants. Somebody explain to me how that's possible, innit? And then they carry him away. So then I thought to myself, okay, they carried him away. These guys are gonna start celebrating, thinking we've won. And then Kang's just gonna like explode out of it, and he's gonna come back, right? Nope. They carry him away, and then they all get together. Janet just lets them know, hey, we've got a portal back home. Let's go. They all go to the top, and then we know they go to the portal. Then Kang knocks Scott over. Kang makes a beeline for the portal. Scott knocks him over. They have their fight, and Scott tampers with the multiversal engine core again. Kang tries making a beeline for the portal again. Hope comes through, shoots him a few times. Scott punches him. Kang falls onto the multiversal engine core. It pulls him in, and then both of them just stand there looking over the remains of the Citadel, knowing that they've won and they freed the quantum people. And yeah, that's the movie. What do I rate it? I'm gonna give it a 5 out of 10. For me, it had good moments and it had bad moments, and the climax really didn't feel all that. I mean, what they did with M.O.D.O.K, what they did with Kang and the ants, and that whole sequence, that just didn't add up well with me. And the fact that Janet could have avoided all of this had she just simply sat down and had one conversation with the family is also another thing that annoys me quite a bit. That kind of knocks it back, knocks the rating down a little bit. So I'm gonna give you now let's answer the question that I asked at the beginning of the video. Were the critics being too harsh on the movie, or did they hit the nail on the head? So this movie is actually a mid MCU movie. It's not the greatest movie, but it's not the worst either, and the villain is great, but they kind of do him dirty a little bit, but anyways, to just quickly round up my points, and I'm gonna say I think they are being slightly harsh, but for this movie I can understand why it does have such a low tomato meter percentage and why it's a rotten movie. But yeah, I think they were being slightly harsh. I think this movie, in the tomato meter, if it was up to me, I'd probably give it like a 60, 61 or 62%. But I think they are being a little harsh with 47. But again, it's a mid MCU movie, so what can you say? But anyways, guys, if you enjoy videos like this, then be sure to check out the final review series. And if you enjoy movie news, then check out my behind the film series. And also, you guys, don't forget to subscribe, like the video, comment below, let me know in the comment section below, what do you guys think of the film? Did you like it? Did you hate it? Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? Let me know in the comment section below. Start your discussions. And also, guys, I will be linking my Instagram in the description, so you guys can follow me on there for any updates on the channel, because there's a lot going on right now in on camera, behind the camera. So just so that any updates with regards to any uploads, any videos, anything like that, sometimes life can get in the way. So that's what I'm just saying. So make sure you follow me on there for all the updates on the on this channel, in the future of the channel, and all of that. And anyways, guys, until next time, I'm out. Peace.